Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Monday, August 4th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live from a spaceship that an iguana is driving. All right. Because today's episode is about conspiracy theories. And I would say, I have a mind that lends itself to conspiracy theories because it's not really a fact based mind or a logic based mind, which I'm not saying that all conspiracy theories are illogical and unfactual, but a fair amount of them have a kernel of that to them, right? I would say a significant number of them are more nebulous than they are actual, fully thought out ideas and theories and stuff like that. And I think that's the problem. I think that the problem with a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of conspiracy theorists is that they're not super well expressed, right? They don't really know the definition of the words they're saying. I think that's one important, misstep within the conspiracy theory community is that a lot of them don't know what words mean, specifically the words they are saying. And they're going out on some branches with these words, you know what I mean? They're using some big fucking words, and I don't think a lot of them know what they mean. And to be fair, I don't really know what a lot of the words I say mean, but I'm not pretending like I'm, uncovering some grand global conspiracy, right? I think that's the fundamental difference between the two. But I would say I do have a mind that lends itself towards conspiracy theories and also just like a general mistrust, especially of the United States government. And I think that's why so many young people in America are conspiracy theorists, right? Whether they're on the right or the left, most people in Gen Z have some sort of conspiracy theory that maybe in older generations would have been considered taboo or like super fringe or something like that, right? But Gen Z, the government and the large corporations that exist within this country for our entire lives have only really worked to fuck us over. The government has done some good things. The corporations have done some good things here and there, but for the most part, especially with the internet and depending on what kind of algorithm you have, right, whether it's positive or negative, and it's really easy to flip between the two. Sometimes it's like not noticeable, right, when you flip between like a positive algorithm and like a negative algorithm on TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever. But I think all of that has created, the perfect, I don't know, melting pot of ideas to create a generation that's more inclined to believe in conspiracy theories, right? Like the whole COVID, right? Most of us were, in our teens, and maybe some people like had just graduated high school during the coronavirus, right? We were very young and we should have been, going out doing young people things, but instead, we all had to wear masks and a lot of us got locked up. You know what I mean? We was up in jail for a little bit, up in the pen with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. We were locked up in there, and and then we come to find out the masks didn't do anything. The social distancing didn't really do anything. And then the cherry on top of that, we find out that this fucking miracle vaccine that the these companies managed to develop in like less than a year also didn't do anything, right? And I think that that's probably the main thing that led so many young people today to embrace the conspiracy theories, as well as just like the internet in general, right? When you're constantly being bombarded with ideas, you're going to accept a few of them even if they don't make a whole ton of sense, right? For some people it's like I would consider communism at this point to be a fucking conspiracy theory in my opinion. Like communism and socialism to me, those are those are two it's a conspiracy theory that communism makes any sense and that it could work. Like you hear these people are still proponents of communism, and they're always like, no, you don't understand communism. And it's like, yeah, dude, I don't think I do understand communism. I don't think I understand socialism. I couldn't even define socialism. But every time someone tries to do it, 10 million people die, right? Like that's a truth about communism. And so every time someone tries to do it, 10 million people just have to die for some reason. That is always true of communism and socialism. And so to go against that blatant fact that not it's not an inconspicuous fact about communism and socialism that people die en masse when it's implemented. It's not these aren't hidden figures. These are very widely available. You talk to anyone that lived in the Soviet Union, really at any point in its history, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, no, we're not, we're not going back to that shit. We're not doing that shit." And so to see all this evidence and to not be able to accept it as the truth, I don't know, I would define that as a bit of a conspiracy theory, you know what I mean? To believe that communism and socialism can work on a scale that's larger than like a small community of hippies that all live in RVs and shit, right? That can work, but right? When you're talking about like a billion people or whatever, yeah, you're not gonna fucking be able to organize all of them to be able to do what you want to do. That's why it doesn't work. But so I would consider that like a left wing conspiracy theory. And a lot of people, the left has been picking up on their conspiracy theories, right? Like back in the day, it was more so like a right wing type of thing, you know, with some like centrist ideas in there, right? Like I feel like 9/11, the denial or not the denial of 9/11, but the rejection of the official narrative of 9/11, I feel like that's maybe more of like a center conspiracy theory, right? Because whether you're on the right or the left, you can kind of agree that there was something fishy there and that the aftermath of it was overall a negative thing. And so I feel like conspiracy theories, for the most part, though, they did used to kind of be a right wing thing, but it's kind of moving. It's kind of moving now, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people on the left, right? Like I was saying, a lot of young people are conspiracy theorists nowadays, and just historically, young people do tend to be more on the left wing of the political spectrum, right? And so I feel like there's going to be a lot more left wing conspiracy theories. And I think one very recent example of that is the whole Sydney Sweeney eugenics thing. And that goes back to the conspiracy theorists not knowing what the words they're saying means. Because they're just calling everything eugenics. You know what I mean? It's like when toddlers reach a certain age, they only answer like yes or no to every question, right? Like you can ask a toddler, be like, "Do you want ice cream or whatever?" And he'll shake his head and be like, "No." And it's like clearly the toddler wants ice cream. He just doesn't know what he's saying, right? And I feel like that's true of the word eugenics when the people on the left are talking about like the Sydney Sweeney ad. just just everything is eugenics to them, right? It's like when it's like when toddlers call all cars like Lightning McQueen. Like they'll point at a red car and be like Lightning McQueen. I feel like I feel like that's what the word eugenics is. Very recently, within like the past, when did that come out? Like a week ago or something like that. Within the past week, the word eugenics has just become like a toddler word for for people on the left, where it's just like, I don't like what this guy's saying, so it's eugenics, right? It's kind of like the new Hitler, where people on the left would just whoever they disagreed with, that guy is Hitler, and people on the right they would do it occasionally too, but they more so uh tended to fall on the side of being like calling people pedophiles or communists or something like that. On the right they did. On the left it was more so Hitler. Now it's eugenics. You know what I mean? They discovered a new word. They kind of know what it means. They know overall it has like a negative connotation and a negative denotation, quite frankly, but they know it's like just broadly negative, and so that's that's their new word. I wouldn't be surprised if they start calling people eugenics pretty soon. You know what I mean? They're gonna they're gonna be like Trump is eugenics. They don't. They just don't know what it means. But it's just very funny to watch the whole thing. And the funniest thing about it all is let's pretend they're 100% right, right? Let's pretend like Sydney Sweeney is promoting Nazi style, Hitler style, Planned Parenthood style, look up the original name of Planned Parenthood and you'll find out some interesting facts. You'll find out a few tidbits about Planned Parenthood, but let's pretend like she is promoting, Aryan eugenics. And let's just say that's 100% true for a fact. A bunch of ugly women online, a bunch of large women, a bunch of women with misshapen faces, right? Women, and really people as a whole. It's not just women, but it mostly is women. People as a whole that kind of look like they were affected by like some poisoned river in West Virginia before they were born, right? People that look like they have severe birth conditions. A bunch of people like screaming at you to not listen to Sydney Sweeney. It's not going to convince you, right? Like if Sydney Sweeney's tits were attached to Benjamin Netanyahu, I would be in the IDF. You know what I mean? It's a bunch of ugly people, a bunch of ugly, disgusting women specifically just shrieking, and men too. It's even worse than when the men do it, but the men aren't really doing it that much in this case. It's mostly women, but a bunch of mutants, dude. Just sewer creatures crawling out being like, "Sydney Sweeney's a fucking bitch." It's like, yeah, but she's hot, right? I don't think a lot of women understand that about men. It's that it's like, yeah, I don't care if she's crazy. I don't care if she's stupid. I don't care what is true about her. She's hot, especially for young dudes. Like, you're not gonna convince a fucking, 20-year-old dude that just has boners all the time to not listen to a hot chick. You're not you're not unless you yourself are a hot chick. And I feel like I've been telling the left-wing people, the Democrats, the libs, the progressives, I feel like I've been telling them this for a minute, dude. You got to start getting hot people on your side. Like all the social media influencers and stuff that are like on the left, they're all ugly. None of them are like good looking people. Hassan Piker's like a decent looking dude. He's a pretty good looking dude, but like every other one of them, they're all like disgusting to look at, which is maybe reflective of their ideas, right? That maybe looks don't matter as much. I don't fucking know. We're not gonna break down the psychology or like the sociology of that or whatever, but you got to start getting some hot people on your side, right? On the left, and it wouldn't be a hard task, right? Like most of those actors and or actresses and like singers and like stuff like that, most of them are probably like Democrats or like at least left-leaning people. I feel like I don't know. I don't imagine that like Scarlett Johansson's like a hardcore QAnon MAGA chick. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think Scarlett Johansson's like trolling 4chan looking for like Q drops and stuff like that. So it's like just get like hot chicks on your side and have them like really be on your side because the right wing chicks, most people on the right wing, most Trump supporters specifically, which I don't even know if they know what the word conservative means, but most of those people, they're like pretty dug in. Whereas I feel like a lot of people on the left, they're just not as like dug in. You got to get dug in like a tick, dude, like a little parasite. You just got to dig in and never compromise your position when it comes to anything. And you also have to be hot while doing it. And I understand that that's a tall task. It's a tall task to convince like a hot person who never has to like worry about anything, right? They kind of just float through life and everyone does everything for them. It's hard to convince that person to glom on to like a political movement and like really support it. I understand that's not an easy task to convince a hot person to do that, but you got to do it, dude. Because I mean, the right wing, they're winning with the hot chicks. With the hot chicks specifically, they don't really have a ton of hot dudes. Most of the dudes on the right wing are the major ones that I can like think of right now. It's like Ben Shapiro, kind of Joe Rogan to an extent, and Joe Rogan's just old. Alex Jones, right? Like what's the other? Charlie Kirk. Most of them are pretty ugly, but they have the hot chicks, dude. They have like the hot blonde chicks with huge tits and like fake tans. You know what I mean? Those are the chicks that are on the right. Whereas you look at a lot of the chicks on the left, and some of them are hot, but it's like they're not. They're just a different. They're a different type of hot that's not as accessible, right? Like they're beautiful, but they're not like fucking chicks with like big fucking fake lips and big fake tits and big fake asses, right? Like the chicks on the left, they're really not like that. And so I feel like, it's not as a the hotness in chicks or the hotness of chicks that are like left wing, it's more, I don't know, esoteric, right? It doesn't apply to as many people. Whereas the chicks on the right, just they have big tits, and that's like everyone likes that. Dude, chick, straight, gay, whatever. Everyone likes big tits. And so I feel like they've got to do that. You know what I mean? The left, they need to embrace the big old titties, dude. And it kind of is antithetical to their whole movement, right? Especially like the whole trans thing. Like they love chopping off the titties, dude. But you got to keep the titties there in order to convince us, right? And they can't be like fat tits. They have to be like, or by fat tits I mean like an obese chick that just has gigantic titties. They've got to be like skinny big tits, dude, right? It's like it's like that scene from It's Always Sunny where Mac is trying to sell his what's it called? Fight milk, like his workout supplement. He's trying to sell it and he's like, there's only one acceptable look for women. Skinny big tits, right? And that's not entirely true, but just broadly, a straight dude is never gonna get mad at seeing a skinny chick with big tits, right? And I feel like the left doesn't really understand that as much, but I don't know, dude. Is that a conspiracy theory? What really is a conspiracy? This isn't an episode about defining what a conspiracy theory is. I can look it up real quick, but I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's anything that doesn't go against the official. Like, they'll call anything a fucking conspiracy theory, dude. You'll be like, yeah, man, something weird is going on with Ghislaine Maxwell. And they'll be like, so you hate Jews? It's like, what? You're a conspiracy theorist who hates Jews because you think there's something fishy going on with a child sex trafficker. Like, it's like a legitimate gripe that people have. So a conspiracy theory. This is the official definition: a belief that some secret but influential organization is responsible for an event or phenomenon. I don't know if I exactly 100% agree with that, but I do think most of the theories that we're going to go over today do fit that definition, right? Most of these theories are there's some sort of organization influencing this thing, but sometimes it's just like an individual. I don't know. Conspiracy theories are very weird. I used to be like pretty into them. I used to listen to War Mode a lot. I have a War Mode hat that I wear all the time, which this War Mode hat, if you don't know, War Mode it's a conspiracy theory podcast, even though you listen to it now and it's like it's not really, it's just them being like, no, you don't understand. Trump is actually the good guy. Right? Like all the new War Mode episodes are just them being like, Trump, he's making it seem like he's a bad guy who was on the Epstein list, but he's actually a good guy who was just hanging out with the staff. Like, that's every single episode of War Mode now. It's just them repeating the statement, Trump was hanging out with the staff. That's all it is now. But it kind of used to be a little bit more just general conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But the logo on the hat is like the Waste Management logo, right? Like the trash truck company. And so whenever I wear it, people will be like, you work at Waste Management or whatever? And then I don't go, oh yeah, Waste Management. I go, no, it's War Mode, dude, because I have to wake the people up. And I always tell them it's War Mode, and you better listen to the old episodes, right? Don't listen to the new episodes. It's just them gonna be defending Trump or whatever. Listen to the old episodes, but not important, dude. Not important, because we're just talking about general conspiracy theories. All right, just some fun ones. These ones are pretty lighthearted. We're not getting into Epstein or nothing like that. We're not talking about like, all that stuff. Although I have talked about it before, but this one's just more lighthearted. Just more guys having fun, you know what I mean? Guys having fun talking about iguanas driving spaceships. That's a fun topic to talk about. I don't care what you believe, right? Whether you're on the right or the left or wherever you exist on the political spectrum, whether you completely deny conspiracy theories or not. Talking about an iguana who's just whipping a spaceship, dude, just hitting a fucking tight corner on a spaceship, just a dumb fucking iguana doing that. I feel like that's fun regardless of what you believe. And that is our first topic. Our first topic, or our first conspiracy theory for today, is reptilians, dude. We're talking about the reptilians. You've heard about this before. Most people have. I've heard about it before, and I've heard about it referred to jokingly and seriously. So I feel like I'm kind of a good person to talk about this. I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to it, which it's an insane thing to be in the middle about, because obviously reptilian aliens or extra dimensional beings aren't like ruling over the world. But I do think there is a lot of the people that talk about this, especially a guy named David Icke. We're going to be talking about him when I go over this conspiracy theory. It's not quite what you think it is. I think it's a little bit more metaphorical, right? When they call these people reptilians, they're not actually saying that they're lizards, although I do think David Icke said that. But I feel like they kind of more so mean that these are like cold-blooded people who have like a different, who come from like a specific lineage, right? They're like cold, psychotic people who come from a specific lineage, which I don't think is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life before. So it's certainly less ridiculous than being like Sydney Sweeney's promoting eugenics. First of all, Sydney Sweeney is an actress, right? She doesn't believe in anything. She's a cold-blooded fucking psychopathic moron that just wants to be famous and have a ton of money and power, right? That it just is what it is. Whether you think she's promoting eugenics or not, that's what all actresses are. That's what all actors are. They're just psychopaths who want a lot of money and attention, and they're all pretty stupid too, by the way. So Sydney Sweeney doesn't have like some grand plan to turn America into like an Aryan, pure white country or whatever. That's not true. I seriously think that the whole reptilian thing is less insane than that. But hey, let's talk about reptilians. So reptilians, they also go by the name archons, reptoids, reptiloids, saurians, draconians, or simply just lizard people. And I do feel like, the whole thing about reptilians is, spoiler alert, they're just like this negative entity that like controls everything, right? And so I feel like reptilians is a little bit too, respectful of a word, which is why I prefer to call them reptoids, dude. I feel like reptoid is like, it's one of those words like clanker or whatever, where it just, I've never heard it be used as a slur before, but I feel like it is, it falls more into the slur category. And so because these lizard people are supposedly these evil fucking monsters that like hate humanity, I'm going to be calling them reptoids for the most part, right? Because I feel like reptoids, it's demeaning as shit, dude. It's just, you know, it really is like, it's an inward, or it's maybe not inward level, but I feel like it's calling a black person boy. I feel like it's that level of hatred, that level of like being demeaning, right? And so I feel like reptoids is it's just a more culturally apt term for them because it reflects my feelings of them because they are evil, supposedly. I personally don't subscribe to this theory. I don't really subscribe to any of these too much, and I don't really care about any of this shit too much. It's like, yeah, a bunch of evil, even if it's true, it's like, the fuck am I gonna do about it, right? I just gotta be like, I guess just stay in a cold place where reptiles can't go, you know what I mean? Reptiles, they gotta sit on like a hot rock, or whatever. So I feel like, I don't know, the only thing I can do is like move to Alaska or something like that to prevent these reptoids from like pulling up on me. But so yeah, and they are supposed reptilian humanoids. That's like an important fact, right? This isn't like a just a lizard that's really tall or whatever, right? This isn't just a fucking 6 foot tall iguana. This is like it's a human with scaly skin and like a lizard tongue and lizard eyes and stuff like that. And David Icke is credited with popularizing this theory and claims that reptilian aliens shapeshift into humans so that they can gain political power. So these aren't just, I was calling them iguanas earlier. These guys are more like chameleons or something like that because they're shapeshifting, you know what I mean? They're turning into us, dude. They're turning into humans. And I do feel like it it sounds insane, but I feel like that does hold a little bit of weight because you look at a lot of like these people that have like an insane amount of political power, like Trump, Pelosi, Joe Biden, even like Kamala. Kamala's pretty hot, but she still has like a weird look to her. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with this lady? It's probably the fact that they're like 70-year-old psychopaths who have a ton of plastic surgery on them, right? So they have like cold, dead eyes, and their faces are like artificially full of Botox and shit like that. That's probably why they look like that. They're probably not, chameleon people, but I don't. They all have that look to them of like, what the fuck? Like JD Vance, dude. I look at JD Vance and I'm like, what the fuck is? There's something wrong with that guy, and it's not just like that classic poor hillbilly look, right? Like that's what a lot of people say about JD Vance is that he looks like a poor hillbilly, which he kind of does because he is one, but he also just has like a generally off-putting look to him where I'm just like, there's something up with this guy. And it's probably the fact that he's like a sociopath and like deep down all humans have like the ability to recognize emotion on another human's face, right? Whether you're like, even if you have like autism or, some shit like that, you can still like kind of recognize when a person has like just something weird to them. Unless you're a chick, dude. Like every chicks always talk about how they have like a deep intuition into like emotions or whatever. But all the chicks that like dated Ted Bundy were all like, yeah, he was a fun, great guy. He was handsome. He went to law school. Right? Where I feel like I look at Ted Bundy and I don't know, maybe this is just hindsight or whatever, but I look at Ted Bundy and I'm like, yeah, dude, that guy's clearly insane. Look into his eyes. He has like the most cold, dead eyes you've ever seen before. And they're cold and dead in a way that's like, they're cold and dead to like empathy and stuff like that, but they still have like a certain amount of like rage and other negative emotions, and he looks fucking insane. Yeah, that's just something you always hear chicks talk about, and it's like, but you guys get tricked constantly by like serial killers and shit like that, right? I don't know. Look, I know it's victim blaming or whatever, but it's like you got. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I don't know. I just look at like these people that have a ton of political power and I'm like there's something wrong with them. Just something about the way they look. It is probably that they're, emotionless or not like emotionless, but like empathyless sociopaths. But I don't know. They just look weird. Like even like the structure of their face. It's not just the eyes. It's like their whole face is just something's off-putting about it. But so those who believe that reptilians are aliens say that they come from the Orion or Draco star constellations, which two very sick sounding star constellations, dude. I don't know. I've never seen the Draco one. And this is the thing about star constellations is that people are like, with Orion or whatever, they'll be like, look at Orion, you can see his belt and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, no, I can't. I can't see Orion's belt or his sword or his arms or whatever, but the Draco constellation, I guess it does kind of look like a Chinese dragon or something like that, but I feel like these people were just so fucking bored back in the day, right? Like, I think this is probably Orion's Greek for sure, and I feel like Draco's probably Greek as well, and it's just, it looks kind of like a serpentine type of dragon, right? It looks vaguely, vaguely. If you were schizophrenic, right, it would look like a dragon. But I think these people were just so bored that they would just see like three stars next to each other, and I don't know, just imagine literally whatever, whatever they could, because I don't see it at all, and maybe that shows like my lack. Yeah, I'm looking at these pictures and I'm like, it doesn't look like a dragon. Like they're showing like an overlay of a dragon over the constellation, but it's like, no, dude, it kind of looks like just a line with a circle at the end of it. Right? And even that's a stretch. Even calling the thing at the end of the line a circle is a stretch, dude. But that's supposedly where these reptilians are from. They're supposedly from the Draco constellation or the Orion constellation. But I don't know. I'll disregard the Orion thing because it just makes more sense if they're from the Draco constellation because Draco, dragon, and they're like reptilian type of things. But I mean, if they got all, I don't know how far this thing is from us, dude, but I mean, they've got some pretty advanced technology if they made it all the way down here, dude. Yeah, it doesn't look anything like a dragon. It does it, right? Like the Big Dipper and Little Dipper, those actually kind of look like ladles or like spoons, right? They look kind of like the thing that people are saying they are. This fucking dragon, it doesn't look anything, nothing like a dragon. Or like Ursus Major or whatever. It's supposed to be a bear. It doesn't look anything like a fucking bear, dude. It doesn't, not even close. I don't care. I don't care how hard I'm tripping on like LSD or mushrooms or like whatever psychedelic drug, it will never look like a fucking bear to me. It does. I don't know where they're getting it from, dude. These people, they're just straight up lying on our names. But hey, I don't know, dude. If people look at Draco and they see a dragon, then I don't know. Maybe reptilians are real because I clearly don't have the thought process required to put those two things together. So maybe these guys are aliens from the Draco constellation. And some people claim that these reptoids are interdimensional, right? Like they're not from our plane of existence. They came over from, I don't know, I guess another dimension, not like the fourth dimension or whatever, but like from an alternate universe, I guess. They figured out how to open up a portal, dude. With their little wrinkly lizard hands, they hit the Doctor Strange thing and they opened up a portal and they hopped over here and they were like, I want to live in the White House. Right? That's what the reptoids did, dude. They were like, I want to marry a Slovenian model. That's what I want to do. I want to hold pageants and stuff like that. After they opened up that interdimensional gate, dude, they were like, I want to find the hottest, dumbest women, and I want to have them go head to head to see who the hottest dumb chick is. Which is, I'm referencing Trump's Miss Universe thing because that's all it is. People that are into pageants are also fucking weird, dude. They're weird people. It's like they talk about these women like they have talent or something like that, and it's just I don't know. It's like this social predisposition to like giving hot people the benefit of the doubt. It's like some, there was some study done on that where it's like they found out that like people just generally look at hot people and they're like, that's a good person. And I feel like that's what Miss Universe is. It's like a lot of people look at them and they're like, wow, they're so talented or whatever. They're like, they're so smart. They're so fucking, what's the word? They're so well spoken and shit like that. Well spoken isn't the word, but I couldn't think of the other one, so I went with well spoken. But like, they look at them and they think that they have any level of talent to them, and it's like, no, they're just hot dummies, and that's fine, dude. It's fine to be a hot dummy. No one, I'm not ever gonna get mad at looking at a hot dummy, but what I will get mad at is people pretending that these hot dummies have any talent to them, right? And the same goes with actors and shit like that. It's like, no, they're not. I talked about this a little bit, so I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but it's like they're just hot dum dums, and that's fine, dude. It's fine to be a hot dum dum, but let's not pretend that these hot dum dums are like the fucking the Socrates of our times or whatever. But if I was a reptoid, dude, if I was an interdimensional reptoid, I would want to be a hot chick or a hot dude. You know what I mean? So I can't blame him too much for shapeshifting because it's like if they didn't shapeshift, they wouldn't be getting any pussy, any dick, nothing like that. So I don't blame him too much for shapeshifting. And so this is kind of where the theory comes from. So academics claim that this theory stems from Robert E. Howard's story, The Shadow Kingdom from 1929. Dude, my handwriting is so bad. When I looked at 1929, like the year, I was like, does that say Laza? It's like, what the fuck is Laza? No, it says 1929, and I just write like I'm a fucking retard. So these people are coming to rain in on the parade, though. That's the thing you have to take from that little segment. These people, they're coming in to fucking just shit on your day, dude. It's like, I just want to pretend like reptilians are running the country because that's easier than accepting maybe the more realistic answer, which is that, yes, these are people that are insanely corrupt and they are psychopaths who don't care about the well being of the people that they're supposed to take care of, but they're not reptiles. They're just regular old psychopaths who live among us every day. I think that's maybe a more truthful way of looking at it, you know? And maybe calling them reptilians, I don't know. I think a lot of this maybe is a little bit metaphorical, but David Icke believes they're aliens, so I can't really say there's any metaphor in there, but I feel like a lot of the people just this conspiracy theory as a whole, I think it has a strong aspect of metaphor to it, where it's like, yeah, that's not literally true. These aren't literally interdimensional reptilians, but they might as well be, right? Like they're so cold, they're so psychotic, they're so manipulative, they're so alien to us, right? Like Donald Trump is completely that's an alien thing, right? To be a billionaire, who's been a billionaire since the 80s and to own fucking skyscrapers in New York and Chicago and all that stuff. And then to become the president of the United States and just run through chicks constantly, right? I feel like that's an alien life to most people. That's a life that not a lot of people can relate to. So I feel like calling them reptilians, I maybe don't believe that they're literally that, but I think it might be an apt description of them, right? Because they're these cold, alien, foreign people. And so I don't know. I think reptilian or reptoid. Sorry, I'm sorry for calling them reptilians, dude. I forgot I was talking shit about them. These reptoids, dude. These. I'm getting dangerously close to like combining the N word with like reptilian, and I'm not gonna do it, dude. So I'll just keep calling them reptoids. But yeah, I do think there's a strong sense of metaphor and maybe a kernel of truth to the theory. That's all I'm saying here, dude. But yeah, I don't think they're actual aliens. But this story that this guy wrote, this story, The Shadow Kingdom, so it says that there's these humanoid things with human bodies and snake heads, which I guess that's not like a full reptilian. Like every time you see a picture of like Hillary Clinton as a reptilian, it's like a full body reptilian, and that's not what this story is. It's like a human body with a snake head, which that does sound pretty sick, dude. It's like it's like maybe it doesn't apply to me, but I feel like she could take a big old dick down her throat. So it kind of turns me on a little bit. I would be lying if I said it didn't. I would be lying if I said imagining like Hillary Clinton with a snake head wasn't at least a little bit hot, dude. Because, and I know what you guys are saying, dude. Look up young Hillary Clinton, though. I know you guys are shitting on me right now. Hillary Clinton now, yeah, I get it. She's postmenopausal. She's kind of droopy. She kind of looks like a Great Dane or something like that. But look up Hillary Clinton in like the 60s or the 70s or something like that, and you'll maybe come to my side a little bit more. Because I mean, damn, dude, is young Hillary Clinton a piece, dude? The face, it's not the greatest face I've ever seen before, but the titties and the ass. Oh, oh my, I don't know what Bill was doing. I don't know. Maybe by the time the 90s rolled around, Clinton wasn't, or Hillary wasn't the piece that she used to be, but I mean, she was she was fine, dude. You know what I mean? She had an ass. She was like a hot chick at college, dude. She was like a hot chick at a state college, right? Like a chick that's smart for a state college, but would probably be dumb at an Ivy League. That's what Hillary Clinton was looking like, and she had a dumpster on her, dude. She had a fucking, you know what I mean? It looked like she worked for Waste Management because she had the dump truck on her. that's that's all I'm saying about Hillary, dude. And imagining her with a snake head doesn't really make her less attractive. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, dude. But she had the yam, dude. She had the fucking thing on her. She had that type of shit that would have fucking, you know what I mean? She could have made a crater with that thing. She could have, if you launched Hillary Clinton at the moon, there would have been a massive impact crater. That thing is juicy. She's got a fat ass, and imagining her with a snake head doesn't make her any less hot. And so, but that's what they're saying they are, dude. They're saying like Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, those type of people, like those weird Ivy League wasps. They're saying they're actually people, but with snake heads. And these serpent men in the story, right? I don't know if David Icke believes this, but in this story, what was it called? The Shadow Kingdom. The serpent men could imitate humans at will, lived underground, and also had mind control abilities, which maybe explains why I find Hillary Clinton so hot, dude. Maybe Hillary Clinton, she's hypnotizing me through the screen a little bit, being like, yes, I have a fat ass. When in reality, dude, Hillary probably doesn't have the fattest ass ever. But I mean, look up the pictures. I'm going to look them up right now and describe them for you word for word. Because I mean, dude, she had the yams on her. I don't know, dude. And I think it just proves how much of a horny freak Bill Clinton was, because I mean, if he was getting that when he was young, and then he has to like deal with like an old menopausal woman, I'd probably be pretty pissed too. But I mean, they're not showing the cake. Here we go a little. She's got the thigh. She's got nice thick thighs, long hair. She's got the glasses on her too, dude. She looks like the type of chick that would like you would get in an argument with her, and then you just bang it out right after. Young Hillary, dude, absolute peace. They're not. Google's trying to fucking make me seem insane by not showing me the picture of Hillary Clinton's ass, dude. I've seen it. I've seen Hillary Clinton's fucking absurdly large butt. Okay. The reptilians, they're using their mind control to make me forget how big and juicy Hillary Clinton's ass used to be. And so yeah, that's kind of this whole story, but it does relate to in the 1940s, Maurice Doreal, I think that's how you pronounce his name, wrote a pamphlet in a poem connected with reptilians to emerald tablets written by Atlantean priests. And this is where I start to lose the plot a little bit, right? Because I was kind of on board. I was like, yes, dude, alien fucking reptoid monsters going through portals and shit so that they can control like the world and like suck out all our positive energy and stuff like that. But now you're getting Mormon with it, you know what I mean? Where it's like I discovered these tablets and only I can read them and only I know where they are. And these tablets say that the reptoids control us all. And it's like, dude, you're kind of losing me a little bit. You know what I mean? It kind of feels like you're just in it for you at this point almost, right? But hey, that's what this guy Maurice Doreal wrote about. And by the way, Maurice Doreal, I don't know about you guys. I was imagining like a fat Southern black dude. No, this is just a regular old. He is a fat dude, but he's not like a fat Southern. He wasn't the type of dude I was imagining. Right when I hear the name Maurice Doreal, I'm imagining like a kind of a swarthy, middle-aged, balding black dude who wears like a white fedora with like a black fit, like an Al Capone style hat, and he like walks up to chicks. You know what I mean? He's like, "Hey, I could take you away from all this." But that's not what Maurice Doreal looked like. He looks like the type of dude who would write a fucking poem about Atlantean priests with emerald tablets and reptoids and stuff like that, dude. That's the type of look Maurice Doreal had going on. But hey, once again, kind of goes back to the whole people you know, give hot people the benefit of the doubt and then kind of look down on ugly people. I don't know. Maybe Maurice Del Real is right. I would lean maybe against him not being right. Atlantis, it's kind of a lot of people have talked about Atlantis. The H Man, by the way, the H Man was a big fan of Atlantis. He thought that the Aryans came from Atlantis or something like that. He thought something along those lines. So a lot of people have tried to mess around with Atlantis, and none of them have really captured my heart, right? I don't know. I don't believe in Atlantis personally, but like if it is real, you got to come up with a more fun theory than just reptilian people came from there, or I guess Aryan people came from. You got to come up with something a little more invigorating than that to get me to believe in Atlantis. Just say like bad bitches cover, right? Once again, goes back to the if you want me to be on your side, just have a hot chick be the face of your movement. Just tell me that a bad bitch comes from Atlantis. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the movie Atlantis. It's an old Disney movie. It's not that old. It's from like the 2000s. The first one, not the second one. I've talked about the second one before, but the first one, dude, what's her name? Kita, something like that. She's a real bad bitch, dude. Like, that's the type of stuff that'll make me believe in Atlantis, dude. It'll give me a little bit of hope, being like, yes, dude, maybe there is an underwater city filled with absolute fucking pieces, bro, because she's a piece. Look her up, dude. Look up Atlantis and then Kira or whatever her name is, and you'll start to believe, too, dude. You'll start to see the light. You'll start to see where I'm coming from. You'll understand what I'm talking about when I say, hey, maybe Atlantis is real, dude, because Kira, she's a baddie, bro. But anyway, we're not talking about Atlantis too much. We're talking about reptoids here. So it is believed that Del Real's works and legends from Africa were the inspiration for David Icke. And yeah, this is like a thing about like the colonial period in Africa, especially during like the 1880s to the 1940s, which I guess is like the whole colonial period in Africa. But dude, there was like every other week coming out of there would be like some different story about like some weird reptilian beast crawling around, right? Like there's the major one, which if you've ever listened to Joe Rogan, then you've heard about this one before. It's like the big like brontosaurus style dinosaur that lives in like the swamps of the Congo. But there's also like more like Tyrannosaurus style dinosaurs that supposedly live in like the plains, right? In like Zimbabwe and shit like that. But yeah, there's a whole lot going on with reptilians in Africa, or like reptile type things in Africa, and I do understand why. Because you you imagine Africa and you imagine like a lush greenery and like it's always hot and humid all the time, and you're like you kind of put two and two together, and you're like a big old reptile could live in there, dude. Right? Like there's a myth or a legend. I don't want to call it a myth, but there's like a legend about like this fucking 300-foot long snake that can like snatch planes out of the air and shit like that. And it's like, if it would be anywhere, it would be like in the heart of the Congo in Africa. So I kind of do understand where David Icke and some of these other dudes are coming from with talking about these reptilians out of Africa, you know? And so they think this was the David Icke, this was like the stuff that inspired him. I don't know. Maybe he just woke up one day and he's like, reptilians control the whole earth. No one really knows. He's not, I don't think he's the most transparent guy. I don't think he's like sitting down at interviews at CNN or whatever. Right? But so I don't know if we'll ever find out where he got his ideas from, but they believe that Maurice Del Real's pamphlet, as well as what's his dick's fucking story, was the main inspiration. And then you look up David Icke and just look at a picture of him and you're like, yeah, dude, I could see this guy believing that type of stuff. He's got like a mullet type of thing going on, and he's like 90 years old. Or he's 73. He looks much older. But that's what happens, dude. That's what happens when you're like worrying about, reptilian aliens all the time and stuff, dude. You age quicker than everyone else. And you also have a sick ass mullet, because his haircut, a lot of people talk shit about the mullet. He's got a sick fucking haircut. I respect David Icke's flow, dude. It's even now he's still got a full head of hair. He might be a reptilian, dude, because he's lived for so long. He's 73 years old, and he's been stressed for I think maybe the 70s or something like that when he came up with this theory, and he's been stressed since then, dude. How does this guy still have a full head of hair? Maybe he's a fucking reptilian. David Icke, dude. Fuck. That's the actual truth. I just uncovered the actual truth, and now David Icke's gonna slither into my room on his belly. Just a 73-year-old dude, wrinkly ass skin, fucking pulling against the carpet, just moving like a snake to fucking snatch me up and eat me. Fuck. David Icke, please don't do that, dude. I'm not a good meal. David Icke, I don't have a lot of muscle, and the muscle I do have is sinewy as hell, dude. And the fat, it's not good fat. David Icke, please don't eat me. Please don't slither into my room and eat me. And now we're gonna be talking about maybe a little bit of evidence, right? Because all of the evidence is just David Icke being like, it's true, right? It's kind of like when you hear a Muslim talk or whatever, and they're like, it's true because it's true. Christians, they'll come with a little bit of evidence and shit like that, but the Muzzies, they're just full on. They kind of embrace the ethos of a religion like that, and they're like, it's true because it's true, dude. And that's kind of what David Icke does too. But here's a little bit of evidence. So in 1967, a cop from Ashland, Nebraska, claimed to be abducted by aliens with a slightly reptilian appearance. So he says slightly reptilian, so I feel like maybe they weren't like, maybe they were like phasing in and out of it, like they're, like they can shapeshift, right? So they were phasing in and out of their human forms and stuff like that. Or maybe they were just like old and wrinkly. I have no idea. But like, I feel like if you saw a humanoid type of thing with like full on scales growing out of its skin, you'd be like, they don't have a reptile-like appearance. They are reptiles, right? And so I feel like this maybe isn't the best piece of evidence, but he said he was abducted by aliens, and they had kind of a reptilian look to him. And I think there was also just a regular guy. I think I think that's what he said. I can't really remember the whole thing, but I do think there was just a regular dude in there, just chilling with the reptoids, just like, what's up? Name's Derek. Yeah, dude, these guys, they just pulled up on me one day, put me in the spaceship, and I was just kind of chill about it, so they let me stay. But I can't. Maybe I'm making that completely the fuck up, but I do think there was just a regular dude chilling with the reptoids in space when this guy got abducted. But that is a little bit of evidence about it, right? I don't know. I don't know if I believe any of those alien abduction stories. There is like the super convincing one. It's like, I can't remember the name. Let me see if I can find it real quick, but it's like Bobby Brown or some shit. And these people allegedly got abducted by aliens in, I think, the 60s, right? Somewhere in like the Northeast, right? Connecticut, New Hampshire, something like that. But they were like, they said the aliens showed them like these star maps and stuff like that. And they drew the star maps for the people who were interviewing them. And then like a few years later on, they discovered like the actual constellations or whatever the fuck, like the actual stars that these people were talking about. And there was like no way these people could have fucking known about it, the people that allegedly got abducted by the aliens. So I feel like that is a pretty convincing one in my opinion. I can't find the exact thing. Just look it up, dude. And it was like a biracial couple in the 70s or something like that. I have no idea, but look that one up. That one's pretty convincing. This one isn't, dude. This is just a cop. And I looked up Ashland, Nebraska, and it has a population of like 3,000. And it's not near like Omaha or Lincoln or anything like that. It's kind of in like central-ish Nebraska. Just the most boring fucking cornfield place on earth. So, not the most convincing argument to me. This guy might have just got like psychosis from staring at corn for his entire life, and he was like, the reptile aliens abducted me. So, that's super convincing. But David Icke is pretty convincing, because when I was reading about the reptilian conspiracies, he talks to audiences of like 6,000 people. I think was like the biggest one he ever talked to. So if you can get 6,000 people out, if you can get 6 people out, but 6,000, if you can get that many people out to listen to you talk about reptoids, you must have a pretty convincing argument. And so David Icke, we're going to be talking about him a little bit more. So David Icke has been the largest proponent of the reptilian theory, and he believes that they have a conspiracy against humanity. And this goes into like the whole, there's like different versions of this conspiracy theory, but they all relate back to the same thing, and that's that there's some weird malevolent force somewhere on Earth. Or maybe some people believe it's like above Earth, right? Like the flat Earth people with like the whole firmament and all that shit. I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but they believe, it's just this general belief that there is some alien force, right? Maybe not literal aliens from outer space, but like something that we don't know about that's just like chilling somewhere on Earth, that's just extracting all our energy from us, right? There's different versions of it. Like I said, like some people think that we're a designed species and we live on like a prison planet, and aliens are somewhere out there like extracting all our positive energy from us and our negative energy too. Like they're just feeding off of us. There's I think some people in like the simulation theory believe that like I don't know, on some matrix type stuff, that like energy is being abstracted or extracted from us in a simulation. But it all kind of goes back to the same thing. And I don't know if that's David Icke's exact beliefs, dude. I don't want to slander the man's name. The man has been consistent about what he says, though. Hey, you can hate on David Icke as much as you want. The man has consistency, all right? And that's how you become a goddamn Hall of Famer. So I'm not going to talk too much shit about David Icke. But he does just generally believe that these reptoids have some sort of conspiracy against us, dude. They're angry at us. They're trying to destroy us. I have no idea what they're trying to do, dude, but hey, they haven't done it yet. And allegedly they've been doing this shit for like thousands and thousands of years. So if they haven't done it yet, I don't think they're ever going to get the whole thing done. But that's just assuming that they're trying to destroy us. I don't know what maybe David Icke believes that they're trying to, like I said, harvest our energy, keep us alive, keep us basically as like cattle or whatever. I got no idea what David Icke thinks, but probably something along those lines. I didn't look too deeply into it, but he also believes that most leaders throughout history have some relation to these subterranean alien reptilians. So, people point to like these ancient bloodlines, right? Like the king and queen of England, these European monarchs, like these the ancient Middle Eastern leaders, right? Like the Persian leaders, like Darius, Xerxes, shit like that. I'm sure like the Chinese dynasty leaders and all those motherfuckers. They claim that all of them they're all like of alien reptilian blood. And they also just believe that like pretty much everyone is, or pretty much all like the leaders are, and that's how they get in power in the first place, right? Like the reptilians control the elections, and then they put the other reptiles in power, which there's another theory that I'm not going to talk about too much that's very, very close to that. But instead of, people with reptilian skin, they're people with large noses, little hats, and curly hair. So I'm not putting that on David Icke. I'm not saying David Icke believes that, but there is another theory. It's got a little bit of validity to it. It's got a little bit of, you look at the numbers and you got some questions about it, right? There is another theory that's kind of like the reptilians, but they're not reptilians. They're just people who really love matzo ball soup, right? They're really big fans of gefilte fish and hummus and whatever else those people enjoy eating. You know what I mean? They have a weird Passover. They um, so there is another theory that's very similar to that maybe David Icke believes a little bit, but he doesn't want to come full out and say it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to put that fully on David Icke, but the two theories they're similar. They have some similar aspects to them, right? Like these ancient bloodlines that control the whole world and control the elections and have a conspiracy against everyone else. Similar. It's a similar thought pattern. And not putting that on Icke, though. I'm not saying Icke believes that. I'm not saying I believe it either, but hey, look at, just hey. Guys aren't allowed to look at statistics anymore. Guys aren't allowed to be like 2.2% of people hold all the positions of power in this country. That's a little weird. I don't know. Hey, we're talking about reptilians, though, dude. Hey, we're talking about reptilians here. I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about a group of people who are European and then maybe one day claim that they were Middle Eastern or Near Eastern, I guess, or Levantine or whatever the term is. All right, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about reptilians here, dude. I'm saying reptilians are 2.2% of the population. They wear little hats and they go to a weird church. That's and they wear big old hats sometimes. Sometimes they wear just a tiny little hat, and sometimes they wear a big giant hat and they have weird hair coming out of their head. That's what reptilians do, not any other group of people, dude. If you're thinking about any other group of people when I describe that, there's something wrong with you. Because I'm talking about reptoids here. And anyway, a 2013 poll found that 4%, and this is plus or minus 2.8%. So they say 4%, but then they add this, what's it? Not margin of error, standard deviation. Maybe this is a margin of error. I don't really know the difference. I've taken 2 statistics classes that are the exact same as each other when I was in college. I got A's in both of them. I just had to take it again because I transferred colleges, and I still don't really know what the plus or minus 2.8% means. I do know, or I don't know like what it's actually called. I don't know if it's a standard deviation or a margin of error, but I think it's a margin of error. So that either means it's, whoa, what would that be? 4 minus 2.8. Let's do this in our heads. Yeah, so it would either be 1.2% or 6.8%, somewhere in that range of people. And that's a pretty big fucking range of people, of registered American voters at least, believe in some kind of reptilian theory, dude. They believe in something. Something's going on. Or Ike's ideas. Maybe not the reptilian thing, but they think Ike's got a little bit of it figured out. You know, they're not full on into it, but they believe Ike, you know, they're like, Ike, if you just change the word reptilian to another word that starts with a J, then you would be 100% right. I think that's maybe what these people believe. But not important, dude, because now we're talking about Louis C.K. Hey, nice little cameo from Louis C.K. We got a few cameos in here. One of them is kind of just about a celebrity, but this one's just a nice little cameo from Louis C.K. So in 2011, while on the Opie and Anthony radio show, Louis C.K. asked Donald Rumsfeld if he and Dick Cheney were lizard people who enjoyed human flesh. Jokingly, quote unquote, Louis inquired whether or not Donald Rumsfeld, who was this guy, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, this guy, everything about him is the most insane. I've heard his name a lot before, but he was like, I think he was the Secretary of Defense for a while, and I also think he was in the CIA at one point. So, yeah, he was the Secretary of Defense for Gerald Ford and again for George W. Bush. And the Bushes are very, very closely connected to the CIA. Like George H.W. Bush he was like, I don't know if he was the head of the CIA, but he was very high up in the CIA before he became the president. And Donald Rumsfeld, he's very closely connected to him, and that's why little W, dude, little Georgie W, had him come in there to figure out how they can fucking destroy Iraq. But this guy's very shady, and he's also a very powerful guy, so I have no fucking idea why he was on the Opie and Anthony show. I guess it's kind of the same thing as like J.D. Vance going on Theo Von's podcast all the time, where you're like, there's something shady about this. I don't know if Theo Von's like smart enough to realize it, but there's something weird about this whole thing, and there's something weird about Rumsfeld going on the Opie and Anthony show. But and Dick Cheney, that guy's definitely a fucking, watch the movie Vice. That guy's a cold-blooded sociopath, the most cold-blooded motherfucker ever. Like, Dick Cheney was kind of the entire reason that we got involved in Iraq, and he did it to make a whole ton of money because, fuck, who did Dick Cheney work for? God damn it, I forgot who I was gonna say Enron, but I know it wasn't Enron. What the fuck was it? But he worked for some military tech company, and he made a fuck ton of money. He made an absurd amount of money off of the Iraq war. Oh, who the fuck did he work for? Just tell me who he worked for. Yeah, he's from Wyoming, which is just, it's weird. Like, no one's from Wyoming. It's not Enron. What the fuck is it called? God damn it, I gotta look this up real quick. I gotta figure out what company Dick Cheney was a part of. But he has like some Halliburton, that's what it's called. I don't know why I couldn't remember, but he worked for Halliburton. And he like started the Iraq war, and he made millions and millions of dollars off of it. But he wasn't even stunned like that. Like, that's the thing that makes me think he's a reptilian. Like, obviously there's cold-blooded psychopath businessmen that like poison rivers in Ohio and shit like that to make a few bucks, but at least they have like a harem of like pill-addicted concubines that they fuck all the time, or they're like stunting on yachts and shit like that. But like Dick Cheney was just like a quiet sociopath who murdered 1 million people in Iraq, made a fuck ton of money off of it, and didn't even do anything with the money, dude. Like, I've never seen Dick Cheney in a Lamborghini. That's all I'm saying, dude. I've never seen Dick Cheney whipping around a fucking Urus, and I'm disappointed. And that to me proves that he's a reptilian, because if he wasn't a reptilian, if he was just a regular dude, he definitely would have been whipping the Lambo by now. And so Louis, who I call him Luis, because if you don't know this, Louis C.K. is from Mexico. He's like one of those white Mexicans, like Canelo or whatever. Canelo Alvarez, if you don't know, he's a boxer, and he's like a ginger dude, but he's fully Mexican. I don't know by blood if he's fully like indigenous Mexican or whatever, but he is like a Mexican dude, and Louis C.K. is one of those too. So I call him Luis, because that's a more Mexican name. Anyway, back to the interview. So Rumsfeld refused to answer the question directly, and CK posited that lizard people couldn't lie about their identities or couldn't lie about their true identities. So if you ever see someone in public, just run up to them real quick, grab them by the shirt, and just start screaming in their face, "Are you a fucking lizard person? I know you're a lizard person. Are you a fucking lizard person?" If they don't say yes or no, dude, shotgun out. Blow the brains out of the back of the head, dude. Give him a give him a Kurt Cobain style haircut, dude. Give him that Kurt Cobain fade and blow the brains out of the back of their head because that's a fucking lizard person. We can't be having those guys run around. So that'd be my recommendation for you, you know? If you go to pick up some groceries at Walmart or whatever, or if you go to Home Depot to sorry. I take a sip of water, dude. My real reptilian voice is coming out if I don't take a sip of water. But yeah, if you're really in any public place, like a park where a bunch of children are running around, just start grabbing people and screaming in their face and ask them if they're lizard people. And if they don't say no, pull out that thing, kill them. That was a joke. That was a joke. I don't have a lawyer. I don't know the legality of anything I'm saying. That was political satire. Let's just call it that. Let's just call everything I say political satire, and then I can't get in trouble for it. How about that? So, yeah, that was the reptilian theory. And now we're on to the Gucci Mane clone theory. I've heard about this one before. If you've ever, I don't even know if you need to listen to hip hop to have heard this one before, but I definitely have heard this one before. And this is our first black theory. The second theory we have, it also gets into a little bit of blackness, but this is just a full-on black conspiracy theory, and it is a fun one. Hey, say what you want about the blacks. Political satire. That's political satire. But say what you want about the blacks. They've got some fun conspiracy theories. All right, like the Black Israelites, they're way more fun than the KKK, dude. And they basically are the KKK, but they're just way more fucking fun. In this theory, it's a pretty fun theory too. It is serious. There is a serious element to it. But it is, it's just a lot of people talking a lot of shit. It's not like the reptilian theory where they're like, it's Atlantis and the Emerald Tablets and the poems and all that stuff. It's all interconnected. This is just a little bit more of guys having fun. And I do feel like it's not just the fact that it's like a black conspiracy, but also just like the nature of it, right? Like we're just talking about how one dude is a clone. It doesn't have a fuck ton of like weight to it. What the fuck? Oh, that's the TV, dude. It's like, is there a bunch of black people having an argument in my living room? No, I think someone's just watching TV. But, so the Gucci Mane clone theory. This is our black theory. So in 2014, Gucci Mane went to a federal prison for 28 months for a firearms charge, which is weird, dude. I understand that the ATF is like a federal organization and stuff like that, but I don't know why he went to federal prison for a firearms charge. I don't know. He must have done something federally illegal with a gun. I don't know if Gucci Mane's been in prison before. Maybe it was just like a simple, but if it was like a probation violation or whatever, or being like a felon in possession of a gun, he should have just gone to a state prison. So off the rip, I don't know if, any of the proponents of this theory were talking about this too much, but it is just kind of weird that he went to a federal prison for a gun charge. It's like, maybe he was transporting guns across state lines. I have no fucking idea, but if I know Gucci, and I do, he ain't no broke bitch, all right? He doesn't need to be fucking smuggling guns to California or New York or Chicago or anything like that. So, very weird that Gucci went to a federal prison in the first place, but hey, that's where he got locked up. Maybe it was a celebrity thing. Maybe we can, rationally explain it by being like, he's a celebrity. Celebrities get, beneficial treatments in the legal system, and so they put him in a nice federal prison. But I don't know if that's true. What the fuck are these people listening to? I don't know if you guys could hear that. Maybe they're just talking. I have no idea. But so before Gucci went in, he had slurred speech, an overweight physique, face tattoos, and was known for his erratic behavior. Pretty typical rapper, had the face tattoos. He was probably sipping on that lean. And lean, by the way, anyone that's never heard of it before, I think it's an opioid, but it's like the cough syrup. And they pour it in Sprite, and then they drink it. And maybe that's why Sprite is the black people's soda. I've always wondered about that, dude, because like it was just like an all of a sudden like a shift in culture, where it's like black people started loving Sprite as opposed to like before. Maybe it was a little bit more grape soda or grape pop, but they started fucking with the Sprite heavy, and maybe it's because of the lean. But that probably explains the slurred speech and like his overweight physique, and maybe explains why he didn't have that when he got out. but doesn't explain the erratic behavior. Because if you're on lean, right, it's an opioid, and so you kind of just chill out. I've heard it's very shitty. Everyone I've ever heard talk about lean, I'm sure they get like physically addicted to it, but I've heard like the high from it is like the shit. It's not like Oxycontin or heroin or whatever, where you're just in a fucking world of bliss, just like fading away into nothingness. Like I've heard it's just you get kind of sleepy. So, but which that wouldn't explain the erratic behavior. I don't know. But so after his release, Gucci was skinnier and more clear speaking, but aspects of his appearance, such as his teeth and tattoos, looked different, right? And you could just look up Gucci Mane before and after, and most of the pictures are of his face, right? Because it's just him losing weight. That's not an indication that it's a clone, but like you look at his face and it's like there's just something different about it, right? It's not just the fact like I've lost weight before. I'm continuing to lose weight. Your face doesn't like change in that way. There's just something fucking different about it. So, and his tattoos also look different. Specifically, fans noted that his face or his ice cream face tattoo looked different and that his high music output. Fuck, dude, my handwriting is so bad. I thought that said magic. I was like, dude, Gucci's doing magic. Gucci was fucking pulling out of four diamonds, being like, "Is this your card?" No, his high music output seemed unnatural, and a lot of this can be boiled down to the fact that he was just sober off lean, and so he kind of locked in, and that maybe for once in the history of its existence, the justice system actually rehabilitated a person in a positive way, but they're saying it's weird. They're saying the face tattoo looked different, but I can't. Maybe this is racist, but like whenever people are like, "Look at that black dude with all those tattoos," I really can't see it, dude. I like I pull up a picture of Gucci Mane, and he has face tattoos, and I can kind of see him, but it's just every black person has black ink tattoos on top of their very dark skin, and I think that makes it a little bit harder to see. I don't know. Maybe I'm racist. Hey, political satire, not racist, is actually political. I can fully see black people's tattoos. I'm definitely not like LeBron. I didn't know LeBron had tattoos. I don't know. I don't watch a ton of NBA games, and I'm not. I'm a bit of a bronze sexual. I do think he's the most attractive man on the face of the planet, and I would like him to breakdate me with his big black cock, but I don't see his tattoos. I think it's just dark skin with dark ink on top of it. It's not the most visible, right? It's like if a white person got a beige tattoo, you wouldn't really be able to see it unless you were looking closely. But Gucci, he's got the face tattoos. The ice cream face tattoo looks different. He's putting out way too much goddamn music. There's something fishy going on. And the most obvious difference was his mouth and teeth. But this was dismissed as him having dental work done. And I was like, dental work done in jail? Because it's like immediately after Gucci Mane got out of jail, people were like, there's something wrong with this guy. And it looks like he got veneers or like he got at least some fake teeth. And it's like, they don't do that for you in prison. They'll give you like your basic necessities, right? If you, like a lot of people in prison have, cancer or whatever, they'll go to the hospital for cancer treatments and shit like that. But they're not giving you a new set of fucking, Istanbul veneers or whatever, right? They're not flying you out to Turkey to get a bunch of hair plugs put in your head. So I do think it's very weird that people are like, "Oh, you just got dental work done," and it's like prison. They're taking care of the bare minimum with you, right? They're giving you the medications you need to stay alive. They're giving you, insulin and shit like that. So I don't. That's just a weird explanation to me to be like, no, he got dental work done, and it's like in a federal prison. I get it. These federal prisons, they're very cushy, and they might have like let him go to a dental office or a what's that called, orthodontist or some shit like that to get his teeth redone. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. So it is just very weird. And also in mid 2016, Boosie Badass, Boozy. I don't know if it's Boosie or Boozy. Sorry, don't mean to put disrespect on your name, but Boozy Badass, Badass with two Z's, aka Lil Boozy, posted a video to Instagram saying, "quote That's not the real Gucci, Mane. They can't do that. That's a clone. I know that's a clone." So Boosie took to Instagram, dude. He wasn't having any of it. He said, "You fucking replaced my best friend. I loved him so goddamn much, dude. And you fucking messed up his face tattoo with ice cream on it." that's what that's what Lil Boosie did. But Lil Boosie, he's one of those guys that's just he's always going on saying saying some shit. You know what I mean? He's always just saying crazy shit. He's kind of like a bit of a less egotistical Soldier Boy. Like, right, Soldier Boy, he was the first rapper with a fucking iPhone or an iPod or whatever. But I feel like I feel like Boosie. Every clip I see of him is a little bit more toned down version of that. And he also said, the old Gucci, he would have smacked the shit out of somebody already. And I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if Lil Boosie and Gucci Mane were very close. I don't know if they were best buds. I don't know if they were sharing ice cream sundaes together and stuff like that. I don't know if they were riding on their bikes to go to Sonic and get a milkshake or whatever. But I might trust his words a little bit. I don't know. Call me crazy. He's pretty close to the guy. So if anyone's gonna be able to recognize if he's a clone or not, I think it's gonna be Lil Boosie, aka Boosie Badass. So I don't know. I think if I'm gonna trust the word of anyone, I'm not gonna trust like some random fucking honky or whatever being like, yeah, it was just some dude who went to Princeton writing an article being like, this is a ridiculous theory about Gucci Mane being a clone. His buddy, dude, his pal, his rotten soldier, his fucking his man, Lil Boozy, is being like, no, that's a clone, dude. The real Gucci, he would have smacked the shit out of somebody right now, dude. He would have fucking ice cream tattoo on his face. The old ice cream tattoo was vanilla. This one's strawberry. That's what Lil Boosie said. He said that's a swirl on that man's face. That man's got a chocolate vanilla swirl on his face, and he's a clone because he would have smacked somebody right now. But that's just what Lil Boosie thinks. And Boosie later claimed that he was joking, but I think this goes back to the whole Louis C.K. thing, where it's like, were you joking, dude? I don't know. Boosie said what he said. Maybe they got Boosie too. Fuck, is Boosie a clone, dude? Are we dealing with Boosie clone ass? Are we dealing with a little clonesy? What the fuck is going on here? I don't know. Maybe they cloned Boosie real quick and they were like, Boosie, Boosie, Bussy. Maybe they cloned Bussy Bad, Bussy Badass to make him say that he was joking, but he wasn't actually joking. I don't know. But now we're about to hear out of the horse's mouth. So Gucci himself commented saying, I will neither confirm nor deny the clone allegations. And Gucci also referred to the theory in some of his lyrics. And this goes back to, anyone that. Fuck. I was just reading ahead in my notes real quick, sorry. But, anyone that's like super into conspiracy theories, a lot of conspiracy theories, especially around celebrity and stuff like that, they go back to like music or like little hints in movies and like TV shows and in media and shit like that. So this is related to all that. And another thing that's related to all that is other such theories exist regarding Avril Lavigne, that's just a random one, Paul McCartney, and Kodak Black. I can understand Paul McCartney to an extent, right? Like the Beatles, ton of fucking influence. I can understand why you would want to clone that guy and turn him into like a person that would like do your will whenever you said. But Kodak Black, that guy's fucking retarded. You just give that guy a couple of Oxycontins or Xanax or whatever, and you're like, yeah, go out and say what we tell you to say. So I don't think Kodak Black's a difficult person to convince. And Avril Lavigne, that's just that's just out of left field, right? Like at least Kodak Black is. It can be related back to the whole CIA is suppressing black people and shit like that. Like at least Gucci Mane and Kodak Black being clones, it can kind of relate back to that grander theory. But like Avril Lavigne did she make Skater Boy, that song? She was in love with the skater boy. I said, see you later, boy. He wasn't good enough for her. I think that's Avril Lavigne. That's clearly, you could convince that person, anyone that's making that. She rhymed skater boy with skater boy. This isn't a hyper intelligent, intellectual who's gonna like battle you over idea. You can convince her of anything, and that's probably true of Paul McCartney as well. Like Paul McCartney was in a fucking boy band essentially. He was basically in One Direction. So I don't know why they're saying they clone these guys. I don't know. None of them really seem worth cloning to me, especially Avril Lavigne. He wasn't good enough for her. He was a punk. She did ballet. Is there anything else I can say? That's Avril Lavigne, which is a good song, dude. I love Skater Boy. I love like that pop punk from the early 2000s, but I don't know. That's not That's not a person who's like steadfast in their. I don't know. Maybe I'm chirping. Maybe Avril Lavigne is like a devout, humanitarian or like populist or something like that. But I don't think she is. I don't think you need to make a clone of Avril Lavigne to like be able to spread your message and stuff like that, dude. She said she's a later boy, slamming on his guitar. That song is fire. I fucking love Skater Boy. I don't know if it's by Avril Lavigne. I'll look it up real quick. And it's SK8 Boy. It's so fucking it's a fire song. I love it. She said see you later. Yeah, Skater Boy, and boy is spelled BOI. Dude, it's a banger of a song. It is just it's like early 2000s Disney Channel encapsulated into a song, and I fucking love it, dude. He wasn't good enough for her. It's so fucking good. But anyway, dude, Avril Lavigne, if you are a clone, that explains why she hasn't. I haven't heard an Avril Lavigne song recently. I've heard a few of her old songs, right, from the early 2000s and stuff like that. But that maybe explains why they weren't able to, why they weren't able to make her keep putting out music, because that song, it has like the soul of like white people in it, dude. Like white American middle class people before the opioid crisis and the financial crisis. Like that's the soul of that, the ethos of that, culture, that group of people. That's what Avril Lavigne is. And so maybe that's why they had to stop it, because it's like Ray Charles. Like seriously, you might think I'm joking, but I really do believe that like Avril Lavigne just like it. She perfectly fucking captured that just like going to the mall with your friends in a fucking like a graphic t-shirt with like a long sleeve t-shirt underneath it, and like skating outside of it and like yelling at security, and like just being white in the early 2000s, like being white in middle class or maybe like lower class or whatever in like the early two. I just really think she captured that, like the way Ray Charles captured being a black person in the South. I feel like they both, both in the lyrics and just like the way they approach the game and like sang and shit like that. It just it seriously sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. I'm not joking. This isn't political satire. I really do think that like Avril Lavigne fucking captured that shit so perfectly, and that's why they had to stop making music with her, dude, because the clone didn't have that spirit in her. The clone didn't have that spirit of like a fucking 15-year-old kid that goes to Orange Julius and fucking tries to do a kickflip for like 4 hours. I don't think they were able to recreate that with the clone. He wasn't good enough for her, slamming on his guitar when it made me my mind. I used to know every single fucking word to that song. I used to listen to that song every time I ran at the gym, dude. I fucking love it. It's so good. He wasn't good enough for her. And anyway, now we're on to our last theory. This one is a little bit more serious. It's got a little bit more weight to it, but still. And I'm probably going to go through this one pretty quickly because we're already at an hour and like 18 minutes basically. So I'm going to try to run through this one pretty quickly, but this one does have a little bit more weight to it. So this one is the suppression of cures for cancer. So some people claim that cures for AIDS, diabetes, and other. What the fuck? Oh, for AIDS, diabetes, and cancer exist, but are being suppressed to maintain profits. So, pharma companies make billions from chemotherapy, insulin, dialysis, and AIDS treatments, right? Not cures, treatments. Like, I don't know if you guys get all these fucking commercials. I get a ton of these commercials for like the AIDS. It's called like PrEP or something like that. It's called like a AIDS PrEP pill, and like you take it and it prevents you from getting HIV and then subsequently AIDS, which that's another theory in and of itself, that HIV doesn't cause AIDS, but we're not going to talk about that one too much. But they make like billions and billions of dollars from these treatments. And a cure to these diseases would kill this business model. And this goes back to the whole Dallas Buyers Club thing. Watch the movie Dallas Buyers Club. It's literally all about how Anthony Fauci, and I don't know if he was part of the CDC at that point, but he was in charge of like the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. And the whole movie Dallas Buyers Club is about how Anthony Fauci suppressed legitimate AIDS medication. Like these medications that, it was a cocktail of drugs. It was multiple medications, but like if you combine these medications together, they seriously, like, they didn't cure AIDS, but they were drastically better than the other ones. Like the main drug that Anthony Fauci was like a proponent of to prevent AIDS, it was like an antiviral drug that it didn't do it. I think it like actually hurt you. It like it didn't it actively would kill you. And he shut down these Buyers Club, right? That's why the movie's called Dallas Buyers Club, because these people, they couldn't get these medications at the pharmacies and shit like that. And so they had to have these buyers clubs where people, who had contacts in, these massive pharmaceutical companies were able to get these drugs and then sell them to these people that had AIDS during the 80s and shit like that. And it's just watch that movie and you'll probably believe this conspiracy theory pretty quickly, because they were seriously not just letting people die, right? It wasn't just negligence. They were actively like harming these people, right? Just like regular gay dudes who are just the 80s, for like the first time in their lives, these people were finally, able to just fuck in the butt and fuck in the butt all the goddamn time. And they got AIDS. Hey, I'm not saying these are, the most morally uh upstanding people ever, but I don't know. Like, I don't want to see someone fucking. What the fuck, dude? My family's going crazy up there, dude. I feel like I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Sorry for pausing, but yeah, back to the AIDS. Just watch Dallas Buyers Club, and I think you will become a proponent of this conspiracy theory. And also, onto our next bullet point. So, natural treatments like high THC cannabis oil are often ignored in medical journals, and those that do research on it claim that their studies are suppressed, right? And all of these medical papers and stuff, every scientific paper that you see, really anything that's remotely academic, whether it's anthropology, sociology, actual science, right? Anthropology and psychology isn't a fucking science either. I'm sick and tired of people pretending that it is. Sorry. But it's not a fucking science. But every single one of those papers that you read are quote unquote peer reviewed, and they're put out by like quote unquote reputable publishers and stuff like that. So these people claim that these publishers won't put out their paper and that their peers won't properly review their papers and stuff like that, because Big Pharma's paying them off to suppress these natural cures. Because if like the truth is known about these natural cures, they won't be able to make billions of dollars off selling, chemotherapy drugs, uh, dialysis shit. And if you don't know, dialysis is like when you're in kidney failure, they pump your blood through a dialysis machine to like filter it like your kidneys do. But yeah, they say it's being suppressed. So proponents of these remedies believe Big Pharma pays to have their research suppressed, like I said. They also believe that governmental regulatory agencies like the FDA work in tandem with Big Pharma to ban their cures. And the FDA, Federal Drug Administration, I don't know if the FDA can ban stuff, but I do know that they cannot approve it. So there's a lot of drugs out there. If you ever see like a medicine commercial, it'll be like, this is not approved by the FDA or whatever. And it doesn't mean that it's banned. It just means that the FDA won't endorse it as a medicine. And that's like a major stepping stone in being able to have your drugs in pharmacies and like be recognized as a legitimate cure or treatment to a disease, is FDA approval. So if the FDA doesn't approve your treatment, right? And sometimes these are just therapeutic treatments. They're not just like pills that you take. They're actual like long term. You have to go to like a clinic and stuff like that. Like if the FDA doesn't approve that, not a lot of people are going to be able to indulge in those treatments and those cures and those activities. So yeah, they're saying that Big Pharma pays the FDA to like ban their cures or to not approve them and stuff like that. And the FDA can ban stuff. So, and another piece of evidence is doctors who have died tragically while researching these cures. So in 2015, Dr. Jeff Bradstreet had his clinic raided by the FDA. I didn't know that the FDA could do that, dude. I thought the FDA was just like looking at aspirin under a microscope or something like that. But I guess the FDA has a fucking SWAT team because they raided this dude's place, dude. And I've been playing Ready or Not a bit recently. Dude, I would not be doing that. I'd put my foot down. I'd be like, Sergeant, I'm not going to go in there. I'm not going to go in there and raid this place, dude. Because Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, he was trying to figure some shit out, and the FDA just pulls up and fucking ruins his whole deal. And to be fair, in a little bit of defense of the FDA, to just be fully transparent and honest about this whole thing, because if you just take one person's side and you defend them no matter what, then no one's going to take you seriously. All right, and to be fair to the FDA, this was a clinic. This wasn't just like a research facility or whatever. This was a full-on clinic where people were getting treatments and shit like that. So, but yeah. got raided by the FDA, dude. The FDA SWAT team pulled up, said no more of that Jeff Bradstreet. But what was Jeff Bradstreet doing? So Dr. Bradstreet promoted the use of GCMAF. I think it's GCMAF is probably how scientists say it, as a treatment for autism. And GCMAF is a vitamin D binding protein that has been modified and is said to be able to cure cancer. So it's not just autism, but they can cure cancer as well with this shit, allegedly. Once again, don't know if that's true, but that's what Dr. Jeff Bradstreet believed. And that guy's a fucking doctor. All right, I understand a lot of people, you go to the doctor nowadays and you go, how the fuck did you get through medical school? But I don't know. I feel like Bradstreet probably got a few things figured out. You know what I mean? He had his own clinic and shit like that. So I'm not going to talk too much shit about little Jeffy boy. But the FDA came in and fucked him up, dude. They said, no, you're not going to cure autism, dude. If you cure autism, the fucking Funko Pop business model will be destroyed if you cure autism, dude. If you cure autism, Reddit will crash into the ground. Do you want to fucking live with that? Do you want that blood on your hands? That's what the FBI said, or FDA, sorry, said to my boy Bradstreet. And so just days after the FDA raided Bradstreet, he died due to a gunshot wound to the chest, and the wound is said to have been self-inflicted. Dude, these people, they said the same thing about Vincent Van Gogh. No one kills themselves by shooting themselves in the chest with a gun, right? Like, literally every story you hear, if you hear a story about someone shooting themselves in the heart with a gun, it's either, I think Junior Seau did it, but that's because he wanted to, like, donate his brain to science. But if you hear anyone else, if this person shoots themselves in the heart with a gun and doesn't explicitly, like, write in their note why, right? Maybe they want, like, an open casket funeral for their family or whatever, or maybe like Junior Seau, they want to donate their brain to be able to be studied by science and stuff like that. If you hear anyone die due to a gunshot wound to the chest, that person was murdered. There's no one does that, dude. Because even if you get shot in the chest, right? Anyone that's ever been hunting before, you shoot a deer, you can shoot a deer through both of its lungs and through its heart. That thing is still going to be moving around for a little bit. That thing is still going to be in pain and conscious for a little bit. So it's like, I don't know if anyone. And Jeff Bradstreet, this guy's a fucking doctor. He knows that. He knows if he shoots himself in the heart, it's not going to be an instant fucking death. And a human isn't like a deer. You can't shoot yourself through both of your lungs and your heart. You kind of have to just shoot yourself in the fucking heart. So this guy fucking knew that. So I don't think he really did it to himself. And now we're on to this guy, Dr. Sebi. This guy, he's a little bit. He doesn't have as much validity to him. He doesn't. There's not really a ton of stuff to back up our boy Dr. Sebi, but Dr. Sebi, aka Alfredo Bowman, was a Honduran herbalist who claimed a specially formulated plant-based diet, and I think he threw the word alkaline in there somewhere, which that's just another buzzword, dude. That's just eugenics for people who want to be healthy, just as like a buzzword. He believed that this could cure all ailments, dude. Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, he was working with fucking genetically modified proteins and stuff, being like, this can cure autism and maybe some forms of cancer. Dr. Sebi was like, dude, eat a carrot. He was a full-on mom. He was like, eat your fucking vegetables. That's what Dr. Sebi was. And you might have heard the name Dr. Sebi before, and I just have to pull up this tweet. It's the funniest thing I've ever read before. So this is at Big Gucci Crow with a K on Twitter. He said, my aunt pulled my uncle out of his cancer treatment and took him to a self-proclaimed student of Dr. Sebi's practices. That inward fella lost 40 pounds in 2 weeks and died, which is it's the funniest tweet I've ever heard in my life. But it's whatever. I was gonna say if the blacks are against it, then I'm against it, dude. But I don't know. Hey, that's political satire there. So Dr. Sebi died while in police custody in 2016. They said he died of pneumonia. I don't even know what he was in police custody for in the first place, but he was 82, and he also had 22 kids in his life. So, hey, man, maybe that plant-based diet fucking worked, because that guy was busting. He was busting nuts. Me a bust a nut in a pussy after me eat the broccoli. But he's Honduran, but he is black, I'm pretty sure. Let me see if I can find an actual picture of him. He's from Honduras, but I think he's like a black dude. Dr. Sebi, a.k.a. Alfredo Bowman. Because, like, the only thing I saw of him was like a mural that someone painted, and it was like a black dude, but I don't know, maybe he's just like a dark-skinned Honduran brother. Yeah, no, he's a black dude, but he's from Honduras. Interesting. I didn't know they had those there. didn't know they had that interesting species there. Political satire. So Dr. Sebi had a court case in 1988 regarding his supposed cure for AIDS. Hey, it was the 80s, dudes. Fucking AIDS was big. All right, it was the AIDS, and everyone had a cure for AIDS. So Dr. Sebi won the case, but his treatments were never officially endorsed. And the case was, it wasn't about the actual treatments. It was about him practicing medicine without a license, but he was just promoting like a diet, so they couldn't. There's literally no way you can construe that as him practicing medicine. He was literally just telling people to fucking eat broccoli or whatever, so obviously he won that case. But finally, final fun fact, hey, we're going full circuit here, kind of going back to a whole Gucci Mane type of thing. So, rapper Nipsey Hussle was killed in 2019 while supposedly working on a documentary about Dr. Sebi's case. So, who fucking knows, dude? Who knows? Maybe Sebi was a reptile and he was using his mind powers for good. We'll never know, dude. But that's conspiracy theories. Figured it all out, guys. Don't worry about it. I did it by myself and I figured out all of them. But I'm gonna go see what the fucking commotion is outside. But that's all I've got for today's episode, guys. I'll try to do 3 episodes this week. I was just a lazy fucking bitch last week and I only did 2. But I'll try to do 3 this week. But yeah, I hope you have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. I hope if you go fishing, you catch all the fish of the world because I'm not catching any. All right. Peace.